Yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay. So let's see, where are we? We've come up to this point here in the Maharal.
V'yesh
Uh,
min ha'meforshim.
right there.
You want to take over, Lou?
Uh, okay. We're in the third paragraph. What line are we on?
It's in
Yeah, you
blue.
see where it's
Page-
blocked off on, look on your screen. You'll see on your screen where it's blocked. It's about the seventh line down from the third paragraph.
Okay, thank you. I see it. Uh,
Okay.
Yesh min ha-mefarshim v'hu yoter karov. And there is from the commentators that he is closer, more close. Karov.
Yeah. But yesh, right? Yesh min meforshim shu yosakor, and there are those commentators which are more exact,
More exact.
Yosakor, more exact.
Shamar shalo haya ze bishum chet ella bishvil yisurim shel ahava. That they say that it's not because of sin, rather it's because of difficulties of love.
Yeah, Yisurim should be like suffering. Yisurim shall avra, meaning those are sufferings which a person, Kadosh Baruch Hu brings upon a person or a people because of his love for them. So there are those with commentators that the Maharal says, which are more exact, that they say it wasn't the reason that the Jewish people had to be enslaved in Egypt because of any particular sin. It wasn't because of any particular sin we had to go to be in Egypt as slaves. Rather, it was they were considered to be Yisurim Shel Ava, meaning Kadosh Baruch Hu was bringing these sufferings upon the Jewish people in order to benefit them in some way, meaning they weren't coming as a result of a sin which needed to have a kapara, right? There was in fact no sin that was there, and it was rather something which is coming upon the Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people, because of Hashem's love for us. So He brought out and upon us these difficult times of our servitude as slaves in Egypt because of His love for us. They'll explain what that means. What is it? Yisur Shalab is in general a difficult question and concept to deal with, but maybe we'll get a little bit more of a picture of that here now.
Havi Hakadosh Baruch Hu Al Yisrael Galus Lin Kom Es Yisrael Ule Zechus Yisrael Bema Shezachu. So it's therefore Hashem brought on the Jewish people exile to cleanse them and to purify Israel with purification.
Right. So these the suffering that Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people, had to experience in Egypt as slaves, it was for our benefit that Hashem was doing that for us. Meaning, it wasn't because there was any particular sin which had to be atoned for. Rather, it was that in order to have Klal Yisrael to move on to the next possible level of serving Hakadosh Baruch Hu, they had to go through a certain state of cleansing and purification. So in order to have the Jewish people be ready to move on to the next step of serving Kadosh Baruch Hu, which primarily that was a Kabbalah Satorah saying Nasa B'nishmar Har Sinai and going into Eretz Yisrael and settling Eretz Yisrael, to for those two great accomplishments to be effected, the Jewish people had to go through a certain amount of suffering and cleansing and purification in order to make them ready for that to happen. So that's what they call Yisurim Shel Ava. He's doing that even though it might be difficult and it might be distressful, the suffering because of that. Nevertheless, it's doing it for our ultimate advantage, to bring us to a higher level of serving the Kadosh Baruch Hu.
This is the explanation. Ach, shezeh ein nir'eh gam kain. Even that this does not appear to be gam kain. The explanation?
No, also, so he said like this. So he said, these Meforshim are more exact, right? That they're saying the slavery in Egypt was because of the necessity to purify us and to cleanse us so we can move on to the next level of serving Kadosh Baruch Hu. So the Ramaral says, right, Kach yesh lefarsh, there is to explain it this way. However, shezeh ein nir'eh gam kain. However, this doesn't also seem to be the case. This is not really the true proper understanding of why Klal Yisrael had to be enslaved in Egypt for the 210 years that we suffered there for.
Elu haya ha onesh dor echad bilvad v'oso hador yatso. That these are punishments of one generation because it is the generation that went out.
Yeah, meaning if the suffering in Egypt was because of some type of a punishment, necessary punishment, right? So it would follow that the generation that suffered in Egypt, they were the ones that should go out, right? They were the ones that needed to have the cleansing and the purification. So they were the ones that should go out, right? We're going to see that's not the case.
They should not go out, you saying?
So they should go out. That's what he says here. He says, She'ilu haya oynesh dor echad bilvad also dor yotze. Then if that would be the case, it should be that only one generation be punished, and that generation should be the one to go out. Meaning cleanse that generation, right? Cleanse that generation, and let that generation go out. But that wasn't the case, as we'll see.
Yesh lomar she'hakadosh baruch hu mevi yisurim al b'nei adam kedei lizechusam. There is to say that Hashem brought difficulties on the people in order to purify them. Aval,
I mean that statement by itself standing by itself, that statement's a true statement. Kadosh Baruch Hu will bring suffering on a person in order to purify him. That is true. Aval, however,
but matzinu ki dor revi'i yeshuvu hine v'harbe mesu begalus. But we find, since the fourth generation returned with much death in the exile.
right, that even though that the statement by itself that Kadosh Baruch Hu will bring suffering on a person in order to cleanse him and purify him. However, however we see, Ki dor vi yashuvu, hine harbe mesu begolas. We see it was the fourth generation that they were the ones that finally came out and accepted the Torah and went into Eretz Israel. And in the meantime, many, many died in Golas.
But wait a second. The generation that received the Torah died in the desert.
Right. So that could be considered part of it. Meaning, not only did those many generations die in Mitzrayim, but they also were dying in the Midbar before he came into Eretz Israel. Many died. So that process of purity and cleanliness did not affect the people who had died. I mean, it wasn't relevant to them. So what was this suffering brought upon them for? In what way did they suffer? What did they gain by their suffering?
Tomar shahayu yisurim shel ava kedei lemarak osam sheyizchu lemala hagedola kevan shemesu begalus uva tzarsam.
Right.
So
So go ahead. Go ahead.
So how can you say that they say suffered that the suffering of love, that they suffered the suffering of love in order to purify
Redeem.
what?
Not to redeem them?
Yeah, that's it.
Is to redeem?
Right. So therefore, don't say, I'll tell me, do not say, Yisurim shall ave. Don't say that these were Yisurim shall ave in order to miracle some, in order to cleanse them. She is lomala gadol, in order they should be privileged to a high level of serving Kadosh Baruch Hu. Why you can't say that? Because shemeso begulas abertzosim, they died while they were in gullus, and they died with suffering. They didn't reach that level. Don't try and say that they were killed and they suffered in order to serve a Kadosh Baruch Hu at a higher level, because they never did. They died there. Right? So that can't be true. As they explain, we don't say that that the sufferings that the Jewish people suffered through their slavery to the Egyptians, don't say that was the reason being that they were supposed to be purified now in order that they should be able to come into Eretz Israel, right? Because many of the Jewish people that were there in the enslavement in Egypt, they died, right, either in Egypt, and they died before he even got to Eretz Israel. So their suffering never brought them to the perfection that those Yisurim, those sufferings were supposed to achieve. So that can't be the reason why they were suffering. Therefore, you're going to have to come up with a different reason. Why was there a Shibud Mitzrayim? We're still in search of a reason. Why was there a Shibud Mitzrayim? Why did the Jewish people have to be enslaved in Egypt? That is the big question here. Very big question. What was the reason why the Jewish people needed to be enslaved in Mitzrayim? And even though, see, this is something that you hear quite a lot. You hear quite a lot that the servitude in Egypt was necessary, that we should be able to receive the Torah. So true enough that what occurred to us in Egypt allowed us to be therefore acquiescent enough to receive the Torah, right? Since we had number one, a debt of gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu because he took us out of Mitzrayim. Number two, we were already indoctrinated to the way of life of serving someone, meaning just as it said that when we came out of Mitzrayim, so we stopped being slaves to Pharaoh, and now we became slaves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the whole concept of slavery, right, that was a concept and a way of life that the Jewish people had already been exposed to, and it made it that much easier for us to finally say Na'aseh v'nishma when it came time to receive the Torah. So this is something which is mentioned and is spoken about in terms of the reason for the slavery in Mitzrayim, but apparently I think that the direction that the Maharal is going to be going is that was sort of like a spin-off. That wasn't the main reason for our servitude, our enslavement at the hands of the Egyptians. Agav, incidentally, because we were slaves in Mitzrayim, that made it easier, incidentally, that we should be able to makabel the Torah. But that was not the main reason that why we were sent to Mitzrayim to be enslaved there. There was another reason for that, and that was still in. So we're still in search of the true reason for that. And maybe it's a good time to take a break here. We're not going to start the next paragraph now. And then tomorrow, Blineder, let's begin with that paragraph beginning V'ata Eshu El Divri Chachamim. We'll start with that paragraph tomorrow. We'll take a short break, about 5-10 minutes, and we'll then after that continue with the Mishnah Berurah Shir. We're learning in the Mishnah Berurah in the second volume of the Mishnah Berurah Hilchos Netilas Yadayim. That's in Siman Kuf Samech. Okay, very good. So if you have a Mishnah Berurah handy, you can take out the second volume, Kuf Samech. There we'll be learning that in about 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, we'll take a little break. Roy, I hope you should have everyone should have a Fush Lema good news. Everything should be successful.
Okay.
And
We'll see you
hope to see you tomorrow. Yeah.
I don't know why it went through my head, but it did. I'll dump it on you. In that, I wonder if it wasn't not just for us that we were in Mitzrayim. See, the Egyptians treated us overly. They were too much. They went overboard, right? And for that,
Right,
they
exactly.
perished. But what if they didn't? What if they did it exactly to what Hashem wanted? maybe they wouldn't have been destroyed as a nation, and therefore maybe they would have eventually come to recognize B'nai Israel as being, so the recipients of the Torah, and maybe they would have been our friends and help us with all sorts of things.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely could have been an outcome. Kadosh Baruch Hu, we say Chazal explained to us. Chazal is not happy with the destruction of the Rishoyim, right? Kadosh Baruch Hu would be much, so to speak, much more pleased if the Rishoyim would do tshuva rather than having to destroy them, right?
So that's so maybe then we were there for the Egyptians rather than for us.
That's a possibility. They do speak about that there was because the question is asked, why of all places Mitzrayim? Why was Mitzrayim picked as the place we had to go? That's another separate question, right? Could have been enslaved in any place. We could have been enslaved in Cambodia, in Borneo, who knows where.
We went there. We were next door to the Egyptians.
Yeah, that's true. It was a very convenient place, but Hashem could have sent us anywhere in the.
Who knows how we get a visa?
Huh? Excuse me?
How we get a visa? 3 million visas.
Yeah, those days you didn't need you just paid your tax when you came in and they let you in.
Right. Okay then.
Who needs a visa when you just pay tax? Just pay tax and let's get rich. Keep the visa. Keep your papers. Just give me $100. You can come into my country. I don't care.
Okay. Then. See you guys hopefully tomorrow.
Okay, very good. Have a good afternoon.
I don't know if you can hear me, Raphael, but thank you for joining us again. We'll see you in Metz soon. Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
See you soon.